Well, it finally happened. For those of you who have been with me for some time, you'll know that at certain points recently I have been mildly obsessed and concerned about spiders in my house and with my little baby, especially because I live in a place where brown recluse spiders are prevalent. In fact, every time we go for a walk in a certain park, there's this little wildlife sign, and we look at the photos of the spiders, and I tell her no touch. So she knows that, if she sees a spider, not to touch it, because I have to teach her these things. Apparently, humans, we don't have this innate in us. We have to learn from our parents' fear, especially our mother's fear. And anyway, so I'm very acquainted with what brown recluses look like because I'm worried about them, and I have been worried about them. And part of me has wondered, do I preferentially magnetize a reality where I have to confront this fear? Because I've had to confront all of my fears. All of my fears, like abandonment, rejection, people laughing at me, ridicule, like literally everything I've been through, losing everything, being poor, being completely broke and having no possessions, no job, no nothing, and having to find a path forward. And through these encounters, I've always stepped away more empowered. But there's no part of me that wants to confront a reality where my little baby is bitten by a brown recluse until today happened. And what I want to share with you, just trigger warning, if you have a thing about spiders, I'm going to get into some nitty-gritty details. So 2 nights ago, we were walking in the park and looking at the sign, no touch, don't touch the spiders, going about our routine. And we come back home, and I get her ready for bed after a period of time, after dinner and things like this. And we go upstairs, and as soon as I walk into the room, I'm flashed an image from my guides of the brown recluse spider that I saw just a little bit previously on the sign. Now, if you're familiar with scrying, you're able to see images, just very flash, very brief images in water, particularly as you are doing divination. So some tarot card readers, like Baba Jolie, she scries in the water and she actually sees visual symbols to enhance her reads. I see symbols as well. It's non-obtrusive, it only lasts for maybe half a second. And it's just like this little boop. And then I have to decode what it means. Like recently I saw well, it doesn't matter. But I get messages through these little symbols, but nothing was as clear and as large as this overlay of this brown recluse spider that was verbatim what I saw on the sign. And it took up almost my entire window, and it was massive. And so immediately I thought, okay, this is a warning. And it's also an indication that my guides are seeing something. They're seeing my journey. And sometimes I get forewarned about things, and I have for a while. And it's an honor actually to be privy to such warnings. And if you are, then I encourage you to honor it and to treasure it, because a lot of people don't even listen to their intuition. So of course they don't listen to messages from their guides when they try to give them a heads up about something happening. And so this is just a reminder that if you are blessed to be guided on your journey and given warnings, then please respect those and be grateful for those and heed those if you don't already. And a lot of people do once you see, the value in them. Anyway, so I got this flash and I started looking around the bedroom and wondering, okay, do I have a spider in here? And I started looking, like where the spider might be. And the bedroom is pretty minimalist and it has a lot of light in it. And there's not a lot of spider places for it. So I filed it away, but I didn't move to action because I was waiting to sort of see how things unfolded. And I thought that there might be like one particular spot to clean, but I, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it in the room. I didn't feel an imminent danger. And then today I had the cleaning lady come and she cleaned everything and yada, yada, yada. And I'm cooking lunch after. My little baby's playing on the floor because she's like 1 year old, give or take. And she's doing that. And she pulls something out from the crevice between the wall and the refrigerator. And it looks like after the cleaning lady came, she was mopping the floor and maybe there was some hair that got like stuck under the refrigerator. My baby saw, and she pulled it out, and there were all of these little bodies of ants in there. And I saw what she was doing and I took it away from her. And my first reaction when I saw this little clump of hair and everything was like, I recoiled away. That was my initial reaction. And then I looked at it again and I was like, oh, there's no reason, it's fine. Well, a couple minutes later, my little baby is playing with some balls and she starts rubbing her hand and communicating to me, ow. And I go over and I look at her hand, her left hand, and I see that there is this little tiny red mark on her finger where she's holding it. So I went back to look at that little crevice and I got down on my hands and my knees with my phone and turned on the little flashlight. And all of a sudden I saw this cavern of all of these dead bodies and this spider right at the entrance point between the crevice, right where her hand was. So I take photos of the spider and sure enough, it's brown and the legs taper down and to a point, and it's small. It's probably only like a dime size. And I freak out because I'm like, oh my God, it's brown recluse. It's happened. It's happened. She got bit by a brown recluse. And considering that this is one of the most venomous spiders, it's a big deal, right? So the crazy thing is that this happened 2 hours before an appointment with a doctor, because separately, I've been trying to get a letter for her passport from a pediatrician, and the bureaucracy to get this letter where I'm at is so strange. Like, we tried to go to one doctor and they said we have to have a file for a really long time. We didn't have that file, and so now trying a different doctor and trying to check her out and things like that. I won't go into all the details. It's not super important. But we had to wait a month for this appointment. And so I was then thinking, okay, do we keep the appointment? Do we go to the hospital? I capture the spider in a jar. I take photos of it in the jar. I can see that it's kind of obscured by, it's like a spice jar that I captured it in. And it's obscured by all of the webbing that's encased in it, but I can see its leg and I can see part of its butt, but I can't get a good look to see if it has a violin on the back. So I pack a hospital bag and decide to go to the doctor to get her checked out because she seems okay. At this point, I can tell that it hurts her, but she's not crying. It seems intermittent and it seems very minor. And everything that I read on Google, while panicking, of course, everything that I read was like her finger was not going to fall off in 2 hours. Okay. And she was not going to drop over dead in 2 hours. Okay. So then went to the doctor. Turns out to get the passport letter, we have to make another appointment. No big deal. Get her checked out for all of her other stuff. She looks healthy. She's fine. She's normal. And then we get to the spider and show him the bite. And we look at the pictures And he doesn't say much. And then I give him the spice jar, and he unscrews the top, and he has tweezers, and he pulls out this little webbing where the spider is. And I'm like, be careful. I don't know if I killed it all the way, because the way that I scooped it up, I wasn't sure that it was actually dead. And the last thing I wanted was spider running around in this exam room. And so he is looking at it under the light, and then he turns back and he says, there's no spider here. And I was like, what? And he calls me over, and I go over, and sure enough, there's no spider. What happened? Now, here's where we get to the fun part about reality shifting. Because when you are a reality shifter and you are challenged, you have a couple of options. The first is to let your logic and rational mind override everything. And the common sense says, I must have not captured the spider. And even though I took a photo of it in the jar, and even though I saw it with my own eyes, I must not have actually captured it. That's explanation one. That's usually the go-to explanation that everybody has in a binary society. Option two is, when you are confronted with challenges like this, mastering your vibration, because we all know that fear is a lower vibrational state. So in the car, and I was not driving, in the car, I practiced controlling my physiology. My cheeks were flushed. That's how revved up I was. My cheeks were flushed with anxiety. I practiced breathing, and I did a short meditation. And the focus point, and this is what I want to relate to, the focus point, because I've done this before and it has worked miracles. I thought to myself, I'm aligning with the highest path. That's all. I didn't try to control it. I didn't try to say it should be this, it should be that. Of course, I had an opinion, and I thought, I want to shift into a reality where my little baby was not bitten by a brown recluse spider. Like I had that forcefulness in it. I set that aside, and I said, I'm aligning with the highest path. Letting the material world that actually gets us to our highest path. And the key to this is, at least for me, who likes to be in control, and if you do too, then this might work for you. The key to this is to say, it's okay that I don't understand why. Because when we don't understand, when we want to control, it's often rooted in this fear that if something doesn't go our way, that things are going to collapse. And so things on the surface can look one way, but actually be in alignment with your highest path. And so by saying, I don't have to understand this, I know it looks real bad. It really does. And on my Rumble channel, I talk about this, and I go into how it looks bad. I'm not going to bleed over here because I want to keep the channel separate. But on the surface, sometimes it looks real grim, right? And so by saying, I don't need to understand this, I'm aligning with my highest path, it allows you to walk through these moments of challenge gracefully without letting your lower vibrational state pull you under. That, in combination with mastering your nervous system, breathing, intentionally working to release the anxiety with the fear, with the panic, and to say, you know what, it's going to be okay. I don't know how. I don't know what it's going to look like, but make peace with all the options. I even had to make peace with, okay, maybe this is her exit point. Maybe I was only supposed to bring her in this far, and delivered the best year of her life. There was a cat in Costa Rica called Bebe who adopted me and relentlessly adopted me, like actually opened up my refrigerator. It was not a tightly sealed refrigerator, so I was just impressed a cat could do that, but she was starving and she got this bag of tortillas, pulled it out to the porch, and gnawed it open and started eating the corn tortillas. And I thought, okay, I need to feed her. She's clearly hungry. And ever since then, like, she was this alley jungle cat who ended up sleeping with me and killing wildlife around me, which was really upsetting. She killed rats, she killed iguanas. And I mean, the iguanas were really hard because I really like iguanas. They're so peaceful and gentle. And anyway, we spent probably like 4 to 6 months together, and she chose me to spend her last 4 to 6 months. And it was beautiful because I got to feed her and spoil her and give her all the cuddles and all the love. And she was this harsh, like scarred up, sparsely thin coat, skin and bones, jungle cat that was used to fighting and defending. And she did. And even when it brought me to tears. But at the end of it, she was plumper and her coat was healthier and she was happy. Like, I still have the photos of her. She was just purring, like she turned into this domestic cat on the inside. And it was just so beautiful to see. But she had kidney disease. And so she passed away towards the end of my stay there. And it was beautiful that she got to have that experience and that she chose me. And so I thought, okay, maybe my baby, I brought her into this world. I had to make peace with maybe she's only supposed to be here for a year and the best year of her consciousness, because her innocence is supposed to go back to wherever it's supposed to go. And so on the way, I made peace with that. The doctor, now looking at all the evidence, looking at her, looking at there's no spider, looking at the photos, and I showed him all of them and all of the different angles, says, it doesn't seem characteristic of a brown recluse spider bite. But just in case, I'm going to give you some medicine. I want you to take it or give it to her regardless, at least for 2 days, see how she does. And if this happens, then go to the hospital. But otherwise, I want to see you back here in 8 days. And then, so I said, okay, well, can I get this passport letter in 8 days? He was like, yeah, no problem. And so on the way out, when we were making the appointment for the 8 days, I tell them, oh, this is also going to be for the passport appointment. And they were like, well, we don't have appointments for that in January or February. And I was like, well, I didn't say it, but the person that was with me facilitating was like, well, the doctor just said that we could come back in 8 days. And so they bumped us up in line. Isn't that magical? Now, I've mentioned that my grandmother is ill, and I don't know if the passport is going to be ready in time, because the letter is just one piece of it. But I have felt that I've needed that passport for some reason. And so perhaps a spider bite, potentially, maybe she just nicked her hand under the refrigerator. You see what I'm doing here? So it starts off as one thing, it moves to something else, and then it moves to something else. The way that we speak about things is also very important. But it's important also to not deny reality and to think of things in probabilities and to say, well, it could be this, it could be that, and it could be that. And then to align yourself with the highest path, which may surprise you. So we'll know more in 3 to 5 days. If there is a bad reaction, then that's when it will show up. but she's sleeping peacefully. She seems fine. She played normally, and like nothing's happened. She still has a little red speck, but it doesn't appear to be growing or swelling or anything serious. So I'll keep you posted, and if I don't mention it again, it's because everything is fine. But if I drop off the face of the earth, then you'll know everything is not fine. So stay tuned, and we'll talk soon.